We're back with another tier list for TFT's patch 15.7 today, so let's check out all the best S tier comps you can play, as well as covering all the A and B tier comps too, and ranking all the hero augments at the end. Now let's jump straight into the S tier, and one of the best comps you can play right now is the Mighty Mechs. For the last few patches, it's been a consistently strong comp to win out with, but you need a ton of gold and expensive carries and specific power-ups to really pull it off. The best time to play this one is with a solid mech opening board and an econ augment to help you start chasing those higher levels. You can slam Karma's items onto Lucian and focus on building up your bank so you can get to level 8 and 9 as soon as possible, where you complete your board. This is the board you're aiming to achieve. A full 2-starred board with Karma, Jarvan, Yone and Lee Sin, which is not an easy feat, but with all of these, some solid items and the double mech pile-up power-ups to feed up your mighty mech, you'll be well on your way to a first place finish. Next up, we have a Fast 9 comp that is fully taking over the meta so far this patch. With everything else getting nerfed, Juggernauts are performing amazingly well, especially with Twisted Fate in the backline, as his core items also got a juicy buff. This one's another expensive board, as your core units are 5 costs, so look to angle this board with encounters like Gold Subscription or Scuttle Puddle, and an item holder like Gnar who can utilize TF's items perfectly. For augments, of course, you should aim towards the econ ones like Hedge Fund, Leveling Up and Slamming, which will get you to level 9 with rapid speed, or you can pick up Aura Farming and put your hands together and pray. Once you're level 9 with a full Juggernaut frontline, get set geared up with tank items, lease in with the AD ones and put all your attack speed onto TF. Moving on now, and Soul Fighters still remain as one of the most consistent level 8 boards in patch 15.7. By now you could probably play this comp with your eyes closed, but angle towards this board with a strong opener like a 2-star Kalista and Neferi and a bunch of AD components. Once you're level 8, look to add in at least 6 Soul Fighters or 8 if you got lucky and high rolled an early Gwen. For items, you can slam all your AD onto Samira, Set can take your tank ones and Gwen will take your AP, and if you get an Edge of Night on her, she'll always get her 3rd cast off. Now this comp is great for top 4s, but you can really play for first with a Soul Fighter emblem, allowing you to play 8 Soul Fighter but also the Volibear and Braum setup on level 9. Then we have Katarina, which is another comp you're probably already familiar with, as she still remains one of the strongest reroll comps in the game. We can't stress enough how playing Katarina with a scaling power up really does make her S tier, so look for over 9,000, not done yet, or of course Max Arcana, which is still solid despite the nerfs. Having the right items on Katarina is key, and she wants a Hand of Justice for the sustain and crit, followed by a Nashor's Tooth and an Edge of Night. As you're going to be rolling at level 6 for Katarina, you can also look for Rakan 3 too, but if you hit Katarina with not many Rakan copies, just push levels and use Leona as your main tank instead. With the 3-star Katarina itemized and powered up, 7 Battle Academia activated and Executioner active, check your positioning each round and you'll be blasting your way through to first place. Now onto our new Blind Fury comp that plays around Juggernauts, Soul Fighters and Edgelords. It's a bit of a hybrid between these comps and can be insanely strong with a 2-star Lee Sin as your late game Juggernaut carry, who's shaping up to be one of the best units in the game so far this patch. You will need the right items to play this comp, as AD components are crucial because Lee Sin and Samira need a lot of them. For power-ups, make sure you have On the Edge for Samira, and instead of using your second power-up on the tank, you can buff up your Lee Sin once he's 2-starred, with Final Boss looking like the best power-up on him. You can roll at 8 similar to Soul Fighters and focus on activating 4 Juggernaut and 4 Soul Fighter with an upgraded Samira, Set and Volibear, which should help you be stable enough to go to level 9 and bring in the big boys. But genuinely what really separates this comp from a top 4 and a first is that 2-star Lee Sin at level 9. Finally, for our last S tier comp this patch, despite the nerfs, Heavyweight Malzahar is still solid and will farm you some top 4s this patch. Here we of course play a full heavyweight frontline with Malzahar as your main damage carry, and you want to gear him up with a Death Cap, Dual Gauntlets and Blue buff so he spreads his contagious diseases even faster. With these items you can look for Noxious Trap as your power up so you don't need to worry about Shred or Anti-Heal. The second damage dealer in this one will be the Dunking Machine Darius, so slam all of your AD onto him and pop all your tank items onto Poppy. You want to aim for augments that help you hit Malz and Darius easier, like Heroic Grab Bags or Rigged Shop. However, artifact items are really what make this comp shine, like Blighting Dual Malzahar or Prowler's Claw Darius being ridiculously fun to play. Moving into the A tier next then, and here we have a bunch of comps that can all bring home that first place prize in the right games. First up is How to Train Your Smolder, and this one is of course a 3-cost reroll comp that plays around Smolder, Darius and Jace too if you high roll hard enough. If you do hit all 3-cost 3-starred carries, this comp spikes insanely hard as it just has a ton of damage and durability from that meaty heavyweight frontline. From one monster trainer comp to the next, Bastion Cogmore is still a great comp to play too, and has a few conditions which take it from a top 4 comp to playing for first each and every time. And that's with the 3-star Cog, Swain and Yasuo, and then to really make it pop, it's the Bastion emblem and key artifacts. Cogmore is crazy with artifacts like Shiv, Lichbane, Dawncore or Flickerblades, and Yasuo works wonders with those ranged artifacts too, so it's pretty hard to miss. Back to the fast 8 boards though, and Star Guardians is still one of the best fast 8s out there, just behind Soul Fighters so far. With vertical Star Guardians online during stage 4, you can cap the board even further by dropping lower cost units like Ahri and Syndra and get Seraphine and Varus in to make your board even stronger. Once level 9 and with 3 items on Jinx, Poppy and Seraphine or Varus, you'll be strong enough for that spot on the top 4 podium. Now if you open the game with a bunch of Kayle, Zax and Bows, then the Wraith Kayle comp is just a seriously satisfying comp to play. It's fairly unique in the fact that it rolls around 1 cost carries but actually requires level 9 to achieve its full power with Kayle fully upgraded. But if you can hit in good tempo and aren't still rolling at level 5 at stage 5, you can definitely farm some LP with this one. Yuumi might not be the flashiest comp in the world, but it's probably been the most consistent comp from start to finish throughout the entire set. It's had periods of being a bit too strong and heavily contested, but now it's basically just a solid comp to play for top 4s and 3rds, despite not capping out as hard as many other fast 8 or 9 boards. Speaking of which, our fast 9 Bastion comp is doing extremely well in 15.7 so far, so you can look towards this one if you have an Econ Augment and if the Juggernauts are being contested. Get on a streak and get to level 9 ASAP so we can field our main units Braum, Zyra and TF with that 6 Bastion frontline. Everyone's least favourite assassin is still giving nightmares to TFT players across all ranks and regions, and this specific comp with those key items and power-ups can really cause havoc. Get to level 8, double Nashes, QSS and Crimson Veil on Akali, job done, thank you very much. Crew has taken a bit of a hit this patch with the nerfs to the strategists and also with just so many strong fast 8 and 9 late game boards in the meta. It can still be a solid comp to play if you hit nice and early, but it's not as forcible as it was last patch. A somewhat new comp is the Bastion Xayah board, which is getting a lot of play in most pro scrims, and having tried it this patch personally, it definitely feels a lot better. Don't get me wrong, this comp is probably not going to farm you first place every game, but can easily push to a podium finish with some 3-star tanks and Xayah with the right attack speed items. Into the B tier next then, and here we have plenty of comps you can still play from the right spots. If you're new to TFT and wondering what a good opening spot means, it's basically what the game gives you through a combination of your early shops and units, items, and your augment. Mentor Janna got some pretty heavy nerfs this patch, especially to Kabuko and Strategists, hence why it falls down from S+ all the way down to B. Gather Force Gangplank is a new comp that's been starting to creep up recently, and it's a bit more niche and not one you can force every game. But if you get a ranged artifact item on him, it's easily good enough to bump this comp up to A. Crystal Plague was insanely popular last patch with 5 Crystal Gambit pumping out loot whilst you sweep through boards with a juiced up Malzahar and Swain, but now with the nerfs it's no way near as consistent. Jace and Caitlyn is still really solid too though, especially if you get a ton of early BF swords and a reroll augment or something like Rigged Shop to help you 3-star your Jace and Caitlyn in good tempo. Sorceress got another buff again this patch, this time to the 4 trait threshold, and it remains a good comp to play to fight for top 4s, but rarely caps out as hard as other fast 8 or 9 boards, and with the Mighty Mech comp being so strong, it's almost always more desirable to go for that one instead. The Crew Snipers variation has popped up a bit more this patch too, with the nerfs to Strategists hitting Crew back a few steps, and I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed this comp when it was OP. Mentor Rise is still being played now and again as well. It's not quite the comp that it once was back a month or so ago, but in the right games and if you can reach the big cap with Lee and Akali too, it's definitely more than playable. Then finally we have Fast 9 Varus, which was one of the first Fast 9 comps that popped up earlier into the set. But now with Juggernaut and Bastion, TF and Zyra being the Fast 9 meta, this one just isn't quite as sought after. There's also a couple of quick situational comps we wanted to mention too. The Double Trouble Jhin and Mundo comp is still a really strong option if you do hit the augment. It's super niche and pretty rare, but a lot of fun and surprisingly powerful. Then of course we have to talk about Crystal Gambit, and we mean the Emblem 7 Crystal Gambit comp with Ashe and Zyra rather than just playing Malzahar. With the buffs to Ashe this patch, this comp got a bit stronger, and if you hit 7 Crystal Gambit early enough, you'll be farming enough loot to simply take over the lobby. But remember, it does need a few rounds of rewards before you really start ramping. Finally, just a quick mention for Hero Augments 2. Starfall Nico is genuinely one of the strongest comps in the game so far this patch. Schoolyard Justice Garen, Twilight Assault Shen, Knuckle Dusters Vi, and Given the Chair Mundo all still look like solid A tier comps to play around, and then Malphite and Kennan's Hero Augments aren't quite as strong, as well as the newly buffed Perfect Form Zac, which hasn't really returned to its former glory. And there you have it guys, that's our full Team Comps tier list and meta breakdown for patch 15.7 so far. The set 7.5 revival is now live too, and of course we're now a month away from set 16 launching on the PBE. And there's nothing quite like the excitement of getting ready to do it all over again. Thanks for watching guys, make sure you check out the tier list on our website by clicking the link in the description, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.